Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from different parts of the world, and namaste to all. Welcome to our compelling edition of Frontline Dialogues, Defenders of India, where we engage with the minds that have shaped India's defense narrative and secured its skies, seas, and borders. And today, as the subcontinent witnesses a pivotal evolution in military doctrine and cross border strategy, we bring to you a voice of unparalleled authority, a man who has lived through war zones, led from the skies, and shaped generations of warriors. And he is with us, none other than Air Marshal B.K. Pandey. Let me give a brief introduction of our esteemed guest. Our guest tonight is none other than Air Marshal B.K. Pandey, legend of the Indian Air Force. He's now retired, but he'll give us a lot of nuggets about Operation Sindoor, his opinions, and how civilians can as well protect themselves. Commissioned on 25th December 1964, Air Marshal Pandey is an alumnus of the prestigious National Defence Academy, Pune, where he was awarded the President's Gold Medal, the highest honor for excellence in training. His service in the Indian Air Force spanned an illustrious 40 years, during which he held a multitude of field, staff, and instructional roles, rising to the very apex of military training as the Air Officer Commanding in Chief, AOC in C, of Training Command in Bengaluru. We'll find more about him in his words. So let me welcome Air Marshal V.K. Pandeyji. Welcome, sir. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm very well. It's a matter of privilege to be on your show.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming on to manatv International. And before I delve into Operation Sindoor and few other questions, which I've chosen eclectically, I've already told a little bit about you to our audience in the introduction. But can you, in your words, can you tell me how was your experience in Air Force? My manatv International audience are eager to know. How is it flying in the air? This is our first interview with somebody who's into Air Force, actually. So it is, I'll take it my privilege because I was given the opportunity. But tell us, I know 40 years it takes. It's a great journey, actually. But in few words, if you can sum up how it felt, penetrating the skies.
Well, it took me 4 years of training to become a part of the Indian Air Force in 1964, December 1964 to be precise. And I served for 40 years and retired in 2004.
Okay.
So, in my 40 years, I have served all across the country and in 3 foreign countries, that is Singapore, Sri Lanka, and Afghanistan.
Okay.
The most challenging of all these 3 was in Afghanistan.
Okay.
It was during the wars. Afghanistan was a war-torn country. That's the time I was posted there.
Okay.
And it so happens that my wife, who's a gynecologist, she was also with me there, and she was asked to open a hospital there, which she did because there was no maternity hospital in Kabul. So she was the first one to open one maternity hospital and run it all by herself. So it was a good experience. We came very close to the society there. And of course, apart from the diplomatic assignment, I think socially also we were well connected with the Afghans. They were very respectful to Indians.
Okay. Great, sir. And also, I was also reading that you are a strategic thinker and also a widely respected voice on national security. So something about that, something about the tenure.
Well, so after retirement, I started working for a company a Delhi-based company, publisher, which published magazines on defense.
Okay.
And So I worked for 19 years and finally retired from there as well.
Okay. How are the 40 years of working? I mean, uh, were you, did you be part of, were you part of any war? Were you part of the 1971?
Yes, I went through all the three wars, that is 1965.
Uh-huh.
And then 71,
Okay.
and then with the in Sri Lanka. I was with the IPKF, uh, based in Sri Lanka. So I had a good experience.
And sir, I know army itself takes a lot of courage. You go through rigorous training, and you have to be fit, you have to be disciplined, you have to be having rigor and dedication, and only then you actually can serve the country. Having said that, uh, I think that it is a higher and a bigger challenge to soar in the skies, being in Air Force, and how much courage it takes to actually plunge into something like Air Force and being part of war.
Well, the Air Force is definitely a very challenging service,
Mhm.
but it also is it gives you a very good feeling to be a part of the Indian Air Force
Mhm.
and to be a part of a force that leads the war from the front. And so it was a good experience being with the Air Force for 40 years. Of course, operational flying is only within the first 10 to 12 years. The rest of it is all administrative and intellectual work. So, uh,
How much
I-
how much percentage is brute strength and how much percentage is mindset?
sorry.
How much percentage is physical strength and a physicality in services like Air Force, and how much percentage is
Well,
mindset?
since the Air Force is a part of the military,
Mhm.
there is a lot of physical uh, stress,
Mhm.
and certain physical standards have to be maintained.
Mhm.
But it is much less than that of the army.
Okay.
It's less stressful. Of course, the profession of flying itself is challenging and it's strenuous. There's no doubt about that. But it's also enjoyable. It gives you a feeling of supremacy. Sort of kind of that means you see yourself dominating from the skies. Which is gives you a good feeling that you're doing something very very positive and aggressive, which uh, which the enemy really uh, is apprehensive of. You you can do a lot of damage to the enemy from the skies.
Right. So, uh, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So we'll go back and forth from Operation Sindoor uh, to your experience also, and so tell us, without any. I know you cannot spill the beans about the technicalities, but at least you can tell us. What is Operation Sindoor, and is it an airstrike or is it all forces together?
No, it is a strike that was launched in response to activities by Pakistan.
Hmm.
So it was a retaliatory strike, you can say,
Mm.
to at selected targets, not civilian targets, entirely military, the terrorist targets, where their bases were struck. No military installations were struck, but it's only the terrorist organizations that were targeted. So it was a very restricted kind of scope the operations had. It was not free for all. You could not go and strike any target. You had to restrict to the terrorist organizations. Uh, so that way, it was not escalatory in nature, and that is why Pakistan also was very restrained in their response.
Okay. And uh, I mean, do you think Operation Sindoor is appropriate?
Sorry,
I said, do you
operation.
think Operation Sindoor is appropriate or
Well, under the circumstances, I think it was a good way to handle the situation in a very controlled manner. Because you see, one should not expect to go into an open war straight away. One should avoid that kind of a situation because it has certain long-term implications for the nation. So it was a very specifically targeted exercise where you had to achieve your aims without actually widening the scope of the conflict.
okay? Uh, okay, sir. So tell me, what message does this send to the adversaries or the enemies, and equally to the international community?
Well, I don't think we need to send any messages to the adversary because the adversary is very well aware of our capabilities and what we can do to them. But we also have to be restrained because, after all, we don't want to cause any permanent damage or any severe damage to the nation
Mhm.
because the people there were a part of India once upon a time.
Correct, correct,
And in my perception, in the long term, the only solution lies in reuniting the two countries. So one day they can become a part of India.
correct,
So
correct, correct. Because
so
the
we should be very careful about our actions.
correct, sir. So I just want your opinion. There are a lot of conjectures that you have to, I mean, we need to, black out Pakistan or annihilate it altogether. But I just heard from you. I mean, just that, it's best to, bring back Pak into India, right? Is that what you're saying?
That's right. That has been my perception. I have served in Afghanistan also,
Hmm.
and I have interacted with a lot of Pakistanis there, and they have immense respect for India. There's no doubt about that. Uh,
Because
so
you were in military, sir, I just wanted to ask you about this question. This came to me suddenly to my mind about Akhand Bharat. I mean, not only just India and Pakistan, few other countries also. Do you think it's to make India a superpower? More than now. Do you think we should merge more countries into India?
not required, not necessary, but it. But once India becomes a superpower, then smaller countries around India will like to integrate with India.
Right.
Uh, so it is not necessary for India to seek uh, merger with those countries now. But first, India must establish itself as a superpower in the world, and then automatically you will find that everybody around you will come closer to you.
Correct, correct. So on that note, sir, just not to get into the sensitivities and the confidentialities. If I can ask you this question, I was also reading reports mention precision time-bound targeting. In Operation Sindoor. What technologies and capabilities made this possible? Only if you can answer, sir. I mean, only if
See all
you're permitted to answer.
see all our modern weapon systems
Mhm.
are uh, based on founded on accuracy, very high levels of accuracy.
Hmm.
That means precision strikes,
Right.
and which whether they are air delivered or fired from the ground.
Hmm.
So this capability is a technological achievement which has been improving over the years. And today we have reached a stage where we are capable of taking on targets in a very, very precise manner
Hmm.
without causing damage to the uh, areas around it,
Hmm.
or to this basically to avoid casualties, civilian casualties. You see, because our strategy or our tactics has been to restrict damage to the military targets only.
Correct, 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 correct. Thank you, sir. So, because you served for 40 long years and after that you started writing defense articles, I just wanted to ask this question. Actually, I have another question from a friend of mine, but I want to ask this question because you have seen the Indian Air Force evolve over decades. How would you assess its current operational edge and strategic posture uh, from the time you started working in Indian Air Force?
Undoubtedly, throughout my 40 years, I have seen the Air Force grow,
Hmm.
and we've been through major wars
Hmm.
and other smaller conflicts as well. So, uh, I must say with pride that the Air Force has uh, handled all these situations very well and has never faltered or stepped back anywhere. They've always been in the forefront, and they are always the first to respond to any crisis. You will find that the air power is the first one to lead the offensive.
Correct, correct. Uh, Thank you, sir. Uh, Very good. So, uh, how do such operations, because we were talking about terrorism a minute back, now, how do such operations reflect India's shift from a reactive to a cost imposing approach to cross border terrorism?
Actually, it's terrorism is not really in the domain of the air force. To handle terrorism is not a problem of the air force. It's
Right.
a basically land-based exercise,
Okay. Right.
essentially.
Uh-huh.
So, so we have to have our other organizations, on the ground, land-based organizations, who have to gear up to cope with this. Of course, the air power can be used to support them,
Correct.
not only in terms of firepower, but in terms of movement, logistics, and so on and so forth. But basically, it has to be handled by the ground forces, whether they are civilian controlled or part of it may be military controlled as well.
Mhm.
But it's not a responsibility of the Indian Air Force to handle terrorism on the ground.
Okay. Uh, Thank you, sir. And because, uh, uh, there's a lot of article and a lot of people spouting out that Pakistan has more nuclear power. Uh, I mean, is it a conjecture or is it true? How powerful is our enemy uh, with respect
Actually,
to our ammunition?
possessing a nuclear weapon,
Hmm.
even a single weapon,
Right.
can be a matter of great concern
Correct.
because even that single weapon is capable of doing a lot of damage.
Right.
Now, Pakistan is a nuclear power, there's no doubt about it. They have nuclear weapons,
Mhm.
and it's a potential threat as far as we are concerned. But it is not easy to decide to use a nuclear weapon. Before Pakistan uses a nuclear weapon, it also has to consider the aftermath, the
Mhm.
response to that, not only from India
Mhm.
but from rest of the world as well.
Correct.
how the world will view this action by Pakistan, because that itself can be a very powerful deterrent for Pakistan's decision makers.
Correct.
So it is not easy for Pakistan to resort to use of nuclear weapon. They can do it in response to a nuclear attack that can be justified by them. But to take initiative and start a nuclear war is not within their capabilities, as I can see, and it should not be their choice because it can be very, very damaging to their own interests.
Understood, sir. So, because now I'm reminded of that book, War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. So, I wanted to ask this question on a whimsical note, but definitely this is a very, yeah, I mean, I feel this is something important I wanted to ask you. In your viewpoint, how should India balance military might with diplomatic restraint in a nuclear neighborhood?
Before we come to military might and diplomatic capability, India must do what is doing now. It is to become a very powerful economic power,
Correct.
because ultimately it is your economic capability is what will decide your future, not your military might. So if you become an economic power, you will find that people around you will bow down to you, to be very friendly with you, and to support you, to go along with you. But if you're economically weak, then no matter how strong you are militarily, you will not make any dent anywhere. So, as far as I can see, India is the right path. There's no doubt that in the forefront there must be diplomacy. The international relations are very important, and the way the country manages its international relations, especially with its neighbors, finally decides the future of the whole region. Military is not the answer for everything.
Right.
Military should be the last resort. If it is not, if you cannot solve a problem by other peaceful means, then you employ the military. But we should not put the military in the front and then expect situations to normalize. It will not happen because
Correct.
any military action can cause an equal and opposite reaction,
Hmm.
and it has a long-term implication as well because
Right.
it is seen as a wound. It is a wound on national honor.
Right.
A military action against a country is like a wound.
Correct.
So it has, in the long term, it is damaging.
Right.
Whereas any problem solved diplomatically or politically has a far better future of sustainability.
Correct.
So we should aim for that kind of an approach first, rather than resorting to military confrontation with Pakistan. That is one. Secondly, Pakistan is basically, it was a part of India,
Correct.
and the people there are like our people in India. We have more Muslims in India than Pakistan. So there is no reason to be hostile towards Pakistan. It's we are concerned. And I can say that to for Pakistan also, there is no reason for them to be hostile to us.
Correct.
They should not see us as a hostile nation. So we should aim for a very cordial and friendly relationship. It's mutual advantage to both,
Okay.
rather than confrontation all the time. And like it has always been in Jammu and Kashmir and in that area. So that is the way our leadership must focus on our future path.
Sir, because you're a writer also, because I'm reading a lot of articles these days, seeing a lot on YouTube also. I mean, this particular phrase that Pakistan is a terrorist country. Like, what is your take on that? And I also heard that they as well call India a terrorist country. So, but of course, I just want to be a little unbiased in my question. But as a
I would
writer, what is
not,
your take?
I would not categorize Pakistan as a terrorist nation.
Mhm.
Of course, there is terrorism originating from there,
Correct.
but that is because that is a form of livelihood there.
Hmm.
Because terrorism, it provides occupation, it provides jobs to people. So what we needs to be done is, if there is better economic development in Pakistan, you
Hmm.
will find all these activities will get subdued, because these are not very convenient activities for families, and the future of children and so on and so forth. So, but people still resort to it because there is no other job. It is not because of any national spirit or anything like that that they become terrorists. It's more because of requirement of a profession.
Okay. What is their vested interest in actually, attacking India, or actually, taking Kashmir into captivation, calling it POK, and Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir, or Kashmir, or epithets like that.
Actually, this is a very sad part. The way uh, Kashmir has been divided,
Right.
because Kashmir should have been entirely a part of India. There's no question of giving it part of it to Pakistan, but it was done for some political compulsions at that time.
In 1947, Britain prepared to end nearly a century of rule over the Indian subcontinent and its 390 million people. Hindus were concentrated in central and southern India, Muslims in Bengal and the northwest. A British commission divided the territory into majority Muslim Pakistan and majority Hindu India. In the chaos that followed partition, 15 million people fled across the new borders and 500,000 died in rioting. 4 border regions saw the worst of it: Sindh, Bengal, Punjab, and Jammu and Kashmir. Among India's 565 princely states, only Jammu and Kashmir had a Hindu Maharaja ruling over a majority Muslim population. India claimed the Maharaja decided to join India. Pakistan disputed this. In October, Pashtuns from Pakistan's northwest frontier province invaded Kashmir with the support of Pakistan's government. In October of 1947, the Maharaja left Srinagar. Indian troops were airlifted in, but were ill prepared for the cold and altitude. Pakistan responded with its own campaign, and India approached the United Nations to broker a ceasefire, which went into effect on January 1, 1949, establishing a line of control, but no final border. In 1962, China attacked India in the Aksai Chin region of Kashmir, easily defeating India's poorly equipped Himalayan troops. China retains control of the Aksai Chin today. 3 years later, encouraged by China's success, Pakistan sent troops across the line of control dressed as Kashmiri locals. The fighting proved brief and inconclusive. On September 22nd, both sides agreed to a UN-backed ceasefire. Another brief war broke out over East Pakistan in 1971, this one conclusive. East Pakistan seceded, 10 million refugees streamed into West Bengal, and with India's help, Bangladesh was born. In 1999, after both India and Pakistan had successfully tested nuclear weapons, full-scale war was barely avoided when Pakistan tried to seize the Kargil region of Indian-controlled Kashmir. At one time, an average of 1 Pakistani soldier every 4 days and 1 Indian soldier every other day died at the Siachen Glacier, and the terrorist attacks in Mumbai in November 2008 were reportedly planned by senior members of Lashkar-e-Toiba, which Pakistan created to fight Indian domination of Kashmir, and which India accuses of terrorist atrocities all over India. The conflict simmers. In 2007, 777 people were killed in violence in Jammu and Kashmir, bringing the 2-decade total above 47,000 by India's official count. According to some Kashmiris, the total is twice that number.
And now we are facing the uh, ensuing problems. But it can still be resolved, because people of Jammu and Kashmir,
Mhm.
they also look for peace. If they don't want war, because if war is imposed on them, then it affects their economy, the future of their children, and so on and so forth. So we should look for ways and means to resolve this rather than get into a confrontation with our neighbor over Jammu and Kashmir.
Correct. Thank you, sir. Have you seen the movie Kashmir Files, sir?
Sorry?
Have you seen the movie Kashmir Files?
No.
I mean the problems that Kashmiri Pandits are facing.
No, I've not seen the movie,
Okay.
but definitely I've heard about the problems. Yes.
Okay. So can you throw some light on that, because you're a writer as well? I mean, have you ever been? Did you ever
No,
write about those?
I'm not very well informed about the situation there, but in the long term, these problems can only be solved
Mhm.
if we establish proper control over Kashmir.
Mhm.
Right now, our control over Kashmir is not complete.
Right.
You know? So first we have to establish full control over Kashmir. Then only we can look into these problems, which are very internal in nature.
Sir, because you served in Afghanistan and Kabul, and you know that country in and out, I was also reading about, because we'll come back to Operation Sindoor as well. I'm saying, what are those strong reasons behind them, coveting Kashmir?
Well, it's basically, see, geographically, it's their neighbor. They consider it as a part of their country, and the population is also majority Muslim. So
Right.
it's natural for them to seek control over that area. Uh, but of course, it has economic benefits also, because from the point of view of tourism,
Hmm.
it's a very strong economic factor. Tourism, which generates a lot of income. So
Right.
that way, we should not uh, see that it's not very surprising that Pakistan would be interested in controlling at least a part of Jammu and Kashmir, not a complete, but definitely a part, which they're doing. So, so we have to find a way to resolve this. But in the long term, the only way to resolve this whole problem will be to reunite India and Pakistan.
Okay. I mean, don't you think it was? I mean, they stretched their boundaries uh, in violence and cruelty by attacking civilians. I don't think civilians were attacked like this in large numbers. The
No,
way
the,
civilians were attacked in Pahalgam.
the aim is never to attack civilians directly, but in any conflict, especially in that kind of environment, there is bound to be civilian casualties.
Mhm.
Civilian infrastructure is bound to get affected. But of course, from the Indian side, there's always an effort to avoid any targeting any civilian infrastructure or civilian personalities. But some damage may be there, which may be inevitable, unavoidable. Because in a war situation, you cannot really regulate uh, activities so closely that you cannot ensure that no civilian will get affected.
Right, right, right.
You see, the population is mixed up, no? The terrorist organizations and the civilian population, they are very close to each other, they're all a part of the same society. So it'll be difficult to differentiate between the two.
Uh, how much alert, aware, and equipped will uh, the whole of the forces, Army, Navy, and the Air Force be after this attack? I mean, is this an alarm to develop our skill set more, or do we have enough skill set to retaliate the way we did in Operation Sindoor?
There is no doubt that we have all the capability to tackle Pakistan in any way. But we also must make sure that we don't overreact. Because if you try to solve a small problem by a major military action,
Mhm.
you actually aggravate the problem because you are affecting the civilian population.
Correct.
And one should take this into account that no military action should against Pakistan should be such that it harms the civilian population.
Mhm.
Because if that happens, then that will go against us in the long term.
Right.
It will be seen as a torturous step by India against the Pakistani civilian population. You know. And internationally also it will be projected like that.
Correct.
So
Correct.
we have to be careful that we have to restrict it to military action,
Mhm.
military to military, and minimize the level of casualties and damage. We don't want to damage the infrastructure as well, because after all, that infrastructure is for the civilian population.
So we spoke about the past and the present, but I just wanted to ask, push the present a little bit to the future. Your thoughts on preparing the next generation of air warriors, both in spirit and skill. Um, where are we moving ahead? And how is military and air force evolving, and how much more it will evolve in the next few decades in this age of artificial intelligence and emerging technologies like that?
Basically, what has happened now is that technology has overtaken everything,
Right.
and the rate at which the technology is advancing, it's phenomenal. And the future generations will be dependent more and more on technology than human skills.
Right.
Unlike in the past, where uh, human skills were more important,
Mhm.
But now in the future, what I is a technological advancement that will going to give you the upper hand. So there may be more on remote control equipment, uh, less involvement of human beings,
Mhm.
long range weapon systems. So like that, technological advancements will reduce human involvement.
Is there a possibility of losing your intelligence also, or our intelligence becoming obsolete and giving your power to artificial technologies like AI and I mean now they're calling it I think quantum computing and all that?
No, you see, human intelligence will always be there, irrespective of the level of technological advancement.
Mhm.
You cannot sideline human intelligence.
Mhm.
Uh, but definitely, there will be great dependence on technology, and but human intelligence cannot be undermined. That
Right.
that has to be there in the domain, and it has to dominate because it cannot be. You cannot allow machines to take over from.
Correct.
It
Correct.
has to be the human mind that has to dominate the whole scene.
Right. 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 Thank you, sir. Uh, just coming back to stretching a little further, Operation Sindoor. Uh, you know, I think Operation Sindoor happened on, uh, I guess, on May 7th, right? And there were orders for ceasefire on May 10th, and there was statements and support even from personalities like Donald Trump about ceasefire. Uh, Keeping these things in consideration, do you think there will be World War III?
There will be World War III.
I mean,
I,
in
I
your
don't.
opinions.
No, I don't see the possibility of another world war because the world is very conscious of this fact that a world war is not in the interest of any nation. Small conflicts, limited conflicts, yes, that will carry on. But there will not be a large scale war because no country will like to take on a full scale war. Even superpowers will not, especially with technological advancements. It will become less and less important to escalate to a global war.
Okay, and how about war between India and Pakistan? Uh, I mean,
Full scale war, I don't see any possibility of a full scale war because Pakistan is not in a position to take on India. There will be border conflict, there will be limited conflicts, but I don't see any possibility of a full scale war breaking out between India and Pakistan.
correct. So, as a veteran Indian Air Force personnel and officer, and for those who are doing case studies also, who will be studying case studies, who want to pursue Indian Air Force and military, uh, please give your message to them. How should be their uh, mindset per se, and preparations as well.
Well, as far as the security of the nation is concerned, the armed forces will always have to be at the forefront.
Mhm.
There is no other option, or there's no other choice. And it's the matter of responsibility and duty of the armed forces to safeguard the security of the nation first. And that is should be our focus. And we should not get involved in internal, local, domestic politics. We will remain clear of that and look at the national interest first, security interests.
Thank you so much, sir. So, and how about your message to the civilians? I mean, how do you think we should conduct our lives in these uh, trying times, actually, rather?
See, the armed forces uh, do need civilian support because, after all, it is the civilian government which is chosen by or created by the people of the country. They take care of the armed forces. They make the armed forces responsible for tasks and so on and so forth. So, to that extent, that relationship cannot be allowed to be compromised or damaged. So, there has to be a very harmonious relationship between the civilian and the military population.
Correct.
And that is necessary for the future of the nation as well, because the military is responsible for security of the nation, which is necessary for the civilian population. So that way, it's all very closely interconnected. These activities and responsibilities. So we should consider civilian and military as one from the national point of view.
Right. Sir, at the heart of hearts, uh, how different are military people uh, psychologically from the civilians?
Well, the only difference is that they're more disciplined and their their expectations and requirements are much less. They accept, uh, they demand very little. They accept what is made available to them, and they serve with all with full honor and respect.
Because I mentioned the word movies, I wanted to ask you how important are. Do you think like the movies like Kargil and Border and few other things uh, uh, based on war and war scenarios? Uh, being you being in military and air force, uh, do you correlate with those movies? Do you think those movies help civilians or anybody or even people in military, or is the situation and scenario totally different uh, versus the movies?
No, you see, movies, if they're made uh, properly, uh, they do, mold the civilian population into the correct mindset. It should not misguide them. It should not give them the wrong impression about the armed forces and about the purpose of the armed forces and about the role of the armed forces and so on. See, there are some countries which are tortured by the armed forces in the world, but that is not so in India. In India, armed forces are responsible for the security of the nation, and movies made must not, project a different picture. That has to be safeguarded, and I don't think the film industry is doing anything damaging to the relationship at the moment. At least all the movies that I've seen so far, they have no adverse kind of an image to project.
Are they showing exactly what at least are they do they mimic what's happening uh,
They
uh,
don't go into full
in
reality, but certainly there is some salad dressing is there, and they'll make it look more uh, dignified
correct?
and and enjoyable, and they don't project it as tough as it actually is.
Correct. So, as the quote goes, I think fact is stranger than fiction. So I think the reality in military is, far more. It's way different than actually the movies. Okay, got it. But that was my whimsical question, though. But I think we're almost at the end of our podcast, sir. Uh, I have a couple of questions for those aspiring to join the armed forces and military. Uh, I mean, can you give any message to them? How should they prepare in your words? Because you have so much of experience, and how should their mindset be? How do they study? Or how
Well,
do they
first of
keep
all, as I
keep
look at
themselves
it,
fit?
the armed forces provide an excellent opportunity to serve the nation.
Mhm.
There is no doubt about that.
Mhm.
And also to serve in a very disciplined and a very dignified manner.
Mhm.
So that way, and all said and done, it provides you a very comfortable life as well. It is not, it may be tough. It may be, especially for the army, in the forward areas and all that. But for briefly, it is. The entire life is not such. But for short periods, it may be tough, torturous. But overall, it provides you a very dignified way of living. There is no doubt about it. So, and psychologically also, it's a very comforting because you're all the time conscious of your responsibility and duty towards the nation.
Very good. Thank you. And can you give your message to my audience, sir? About in totality, how do we conduct ourselves? And any message what that is coming to your heart right now?
As a nation, yes. As a nation, we should aim to rise in the eyes of the public, has become one of the leading nations of the world, which we are now. We are heading towards that. But that's not only for the military. That essentially the strength behind that is from the economic capability that we develop, and the opportunities that we provide for our younger generations. You know, uh, not only to serve the nation in different ways. So that way we are doing well, and we have a very thankfully we have a very capable government and power at the moment, and a very good leadership who are not looking after their own interests, but they're looking after the interests of the nation. And that is what is important.
Thank you.
Because
So, are you?
so long as we have a leadership who's focused on the national interest, we have nothing to worry about.
Thank you. Thank you. So, are you happy with the current leadership, sir?
Yes, of course. I mean, we've seen all kinds of leaderships in the past 40 years of service that I've had. But now the current leadership, I think, is doing fairly well. There's no doubt about that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. I'll come back to you again. Maybe we'll do one more podcast as the subject evolves. So, friends, that was Air Marshal Pandey for you. Uh, you know, a fireside chat with him about Operation Sindoor, Indian Air Force, the military, and how we should conduct our lives in these times also. But I'm really happy you guys stayed with us this long, and we'll come back with more topics as well. Thank you again, sir. For your lovely time, and would love to collaborate more with you. manatv International is really happy to associate with you and have a great interaction. Thank you once again.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And Jai Hind.